Hello, welcome to the Pretty Stitch, and this is video number 4 in my little Tunisian series, my basics of Tunisian, or let's talk Tunisian. So I've already worked my setup row in Tunisian, so if you've been following the series, then you already know how to do this. And now we're going to do a little trick that I like to do for basically all of my Tunisian projects that I'm working, if I'm working them in rows. I do this for every single one. So I will show you what I mean by that. So we're going to work just a regular row of Tunisian simple stitch. So I'm pulling up my loops in Tunisian simple. So there is my last stitch, or second to last stitch. So now I need to work my last stitch. Now I've been working in simple, but I guess you could work your last stitch in simple. But I prefer to work my last stitch, and this is for all of my projects, working in rows. I work the knit stitch because it just provides a similar edge to this stitch here, and it's just easier. So it looks like a little chain on the end, and you're just gonna insert your hook like if you were working in a chain and pulling up a loop, and that's the knit stitch right there. And we're gonna keep going, working these loops off. So I will do another row so you can see. So we're going to work Tunisian simple again. And this is really nice too if, let's say, you were making a bunch of little squares and then you were going to stitch them together to make a blanket or even a patchwork sweater or whatever you wanted to do. When you have that clean edge by working the knit stitch, it's really easy to, quickly sew them together or even stitch them together. So here is my little chain, putting my loop in, or putting my hook in that chain and then pulling up my loop. So that's just a little trick, and it's just, I think, a little easier than, when you're just trying to work simple stitch on the edge. The stitches can get a little messy and it just doesn't look as nice. You have to really watch your tension, where with the knit stitch, I think it has a little bit more structure to it, so it, just looks a little bit better. You don't have to work as hard to keep it looking neat and tidy. Okay, so as you can see, it looks similar to that side. So that's why I prefer it. And again, it's just easier to keep your project more neat and tidy. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to decrease, and decreasing is pretty simple. This is a basic decrease. I'm sure there's other ones, but this is just a basic one that you can do. So we have 10 stitches, so let's decrease 2 stitches. So then we'll have 8. So we will work simple stitch in the first. We'll decrease doing simple. And then we're going to decrease these 2 guys. So all you do is you're going to put your hook through those 2 stitches, just like that. Yarn over, and boom, you've done a decrease. So we're going to keep going, and we'll have that side match, or the end match that side. And there's my noisy dryer. So we have 3 stitches left, so we're going to decrease. Actually, how did we do that? Oops, let me pull that out. I'm a sucker for symmetry, sorry. So we're going to decrease these 2 guys. So you're just going to put your hook right through those 2 bars. Yarn over. Yeah, that worked. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. Okay. So now we've worked a decrease, and we'll finish up this row, working even, and then we'll work these guys off. Or actually, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's a very simple way of decreasing, and you can actually do that, in Purl. You could do it, working in knit. You would go through the 2 like that. Whatever the pattern states. So we have decreased those stitches. So now, why don't we increase? In increasing, can be very simple, but you have to watch it when you increase because your stitches can get lost. And there's different ways of increasing, but I'll just show you a very basic way. You know, just what the pattern says. There's so many different techniques with Tunisian, so if you know these basic ones, so these are basic ones I'm showing you, you know, as I said before, the sky's the limit. You'll have no problem picking up the other more intricate techniques. Okay, so we are going to work a regular simple stitch there. Now we want to increase back to 10 stitches. So you'll just do a yarn over, and then I'm going to continue down, pulling up my loops and simple stitch. So then I'm going to yarn over, and then my last 2 stitches, and then we should have 10 loops back on our hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now we just work these guys off, just like we normally would. Now the thing is with your increasing stitches, if you're doing it by the yarn over, they can get lost. So when you're working your next row, you can be like, especially if you're working with a smaller hook, they can disappear pretty quickly. Right now, you can see this guy pretty easily. But if, let's say you're working, you know, an intricate shawl pattern or something, and you don't want to lose your increased stitches, what I highly, highly, highly recommend is sticking a stitch marker around them so that, you know, they're there. It's a little time consuming, but it will save you a little bit of headache later when you're looking at your project and like, why does this look weird? And then you realize, hey, I missed some stitches. And you have to take it apart, and yeah, so you don't want to do that. So this is a little trick that I do so that my increased stitches don't get lost. So to work the next row with your increased stitches, it's the same way. And there it is, right there. Stitch marker is letting me know. Now I didn't put a stitch marker in this one, but we are using, see if I can, yeah, show you how I can hide it. So as you see, like if you have a larger project and you know the weight of the project is kind of pulling on it, then what happens is this stitch can kind of disappear into your work. And if you don't pay attention, you can just skip right over it. And then, as I said before, your project is screwed up. So, but it's right there, so we want to pop it in there. That's why stitch markers can be your friends. So you can see we've created a little interesting pattern there. So I will show you one more with the increasing and decreasing when you're working in the purl, because it can be a little bit different. So if you wanted to increase with a purl stitch, your yarn is in front. So let's work a purl stitch right here, just a regular guy. And we'll do another one. Let's say we wanted to increase to 12 stitches. So when you're doing the purl increase, you're going to have your yarn in front. So I would call this yarn over purlwise. So you're going to have it in front and then wrap it around like that. And then you'll be able to work your purl, your next purl stitch. And then you have your extra stitch right there. So it's just a little bit of maneuvering the yarn. And if you're not familiar with yarning over purlwise, you know, because when you're knitting, you hold your yarn in front sometimes, but if you're just strictly a crocheter, this might be a little bit foreign to you. It was to me. So let's do that again. We're going to do an increase so I have my yarn in front. And then work my next stitch for my purl. And then we'll just finish her off. Now the only time you need to have your yarn in front is if your next stitch is a purl stitch. If your next stitch was going to be a knit stitch or a regular simple stitch, oops, I want to do that guy. See, I was purling, but I want my last stitch to be a knit, a Tunisian knit. I always do that. It just makes life a little easier. So let's work these guys off. And I bet these increases are going to get lost. And even when you're doing the return pass, you want to take your time. Yeah, see, there it is right there, and that could easily disappear into your work. And there she is, and you could easily just pull through 2 stitches or 3 stitches instead of the 2. So you want to just be mindful of that. Come on, baby. So there is our increase right there. Okay, so for this row that we did the increases working the purlwise, see this stitch right here could easily disappear into your work. So again, I would just be mindful of that if you decide to do more intricate patterns. And they will, especially for shawls, they're going to call for yarn overs and things like that for increasing. And you really want to watch, where your stitches are, so you might want to utilize stitch markers. So we'll just do, we have 12, this should be 12 stitches, so we're just going to do simple stitch and see where they are. So there's 2. And see, this is a purl stitch right here. There's the little purl. So when you pull that, you can see this is our yarn over right here. That's disappearing. I'm just going to hold it with my thumb so that I know, that's my increase. So there's that yarn over we did there. So when I put my hook in this stitch, that's going to create some tension and try to hide that guy, so it might get missed. But there it is. And then my last stitch, working the knit. So we should have 12 on here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. So there's our 12 stitches, and we'll just work them off. It's kind of a ugly looking swatch here. Not the most attractive color, but it works for teaching. So now you can see that, we've gotten a little bit wider up there. So those are some basic tips and tricks with Tunisian. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you explore Tunisian a little bit more. There's lots of cool stuff that you can do. And I thank you so much for watching.